Hey everyone, it's the Ioniq guy. As promised in last week's video, today's video is going to be my top 5 reasons why you shouldn't consider purchasing a Hyundai Ioniq 5. Now, if you haven't already seen that video, check out the link in the description below or in the comments section. So we're going to keep this short and sweet, and just so you know, these are in no particular order of importance. So my first reason is the fact that there is no rear windshield wiper on the car. Now, obviously it is so bad that Hyundai has decided to add a rear wiper to the 2025 mid-cycle refresh of the Ioniq 5. This has been one of owners' biggest complaints. There's no way around it. If you drive somewhere where there's remotely any winter and road salt gets put down or de-icer gets put on the road, all that crud is going to get kicked up onto the back window of the car, and you are not going to be able to see basically anything out the back window in the dead of winter. And conversely, in the summertime, if it's raining at all, you really can't see out past the thick droplets of water. It's rather unfortunate because it does have a nice clean look to the back end of the car not having a wiper there. But even for looks or aerodynamics, I would still prefer to have a rear windshield wiper. My second reason to not consider an Ioniq 5 is just the software right now. And a lot of this gets remedied with the 2025 mid-cycle refresh because it gets a whole new infotainment system with a new processor. But as it stands today, it's really nothing to write home about. It's a pretty basic system. Route planning with EV charging stops was just added about a year ago, so the car didn't even have that for about a year or more here in the United States. You get 2 software updates a year that contain some new things. Nothing has been super major in the last couple of revisions of the car other than route planning with EV charging stops. They added Sounds of Nature last year, which has really taken the car to a whole nother level. And on that note, unlike Tesla and some other automakers, you cannot update the powertrain or any of the electrical components through the software system. You have to go into the dealership and they have to flash that onto the car manually. So don't expect to be getting any major changes to the powertrain with these updates. My third reason why you shouldn't consider an Ioniq 5 is if you want reliable 11 kilowatt home level 2 charging. And if this is your first time hearing about any issues with the Ioniq 5 level 2 charging, let me open your mind. So over about the last 18 months, many owners have been dealing with overheating charge ports. Now, this could be a real issue. It could be a false, incorrect reading sensor issue. We don't really know. Hyundai hasn't given us a whole lot of detail. But I do know from somebody internal to Hyundai that they are on their now 3rd revision of the charge port and possibly more by now. I don't know if any of these revisions have actually been pushed to the manufacturing line, but they have at least been trying to remedy the problem internally. So as the story goes, I always charged at about 40 amps or about 9.6 kilowatts. Then I was reviewing the Autel Maxi charger last year and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and install this as a full 48 amp charger. So once I did that, I plugged in my car, and the first time I tried, the car overheated and charging completely stopped. So that was great. After that happened and it started to become a little more publicly known, Hyundai released a software update that when it sensed the charge port was beginning to overheat, it would begin lowering the charging speed. The problem is they lowered it so much that for people who need their entire battery pack, say they got a really long commute on a daily basis, it is charging so slow they might not be able to recover that amount of charge overnight. So it's really a pretty big problem for the Ioniq 5. So much so that there's a class action lawsuit ongoing right now against Hyundai, claiming that there is a problem with the car and it's not getting resolved. So I wanted to investigate even further, so I ended up actually dissecting my entire charge port. I took it down to the studs, and I put a video out about that last fall. If you haven't seen that, I'll leave a link down below. But that was a real interesting one, and ever since I took my charge port apart and put it back together, my car no longer overheats when charging at 48 amps. So I don't know what I did, I don't know what I fixed, but all I know is it works now. I do not recommend you to take your charge port apart to try and resolve this issue. You could introduce many other issues in the process. So if you need reliable 11 kilowatt charging, I don't know if the Ioniq 5 is going to be the best option for you. Granted, if you have a charger that allows you to dial down your charging rate in 1 amp increments, you can still get between 9.6 and 11 kilowatts of charging speed, but it's just going to take some experimentation with adjusting your charging rate. There's still plenty of people who it will overheat at 40 amps as well. My fourth reason would be the failing ICCU issue with the car. Now, if you're not familiar with what this is, it's basically a component in the car that controls its charging, and they are just getting fried. And it's leaving people stranded on the side of the road. The car will just completely stop without any warning. It will coast down to a stop. It's not gonna just slam the brakes, but it's still gonna die on the side of the road. And this goes into the dealership, and then it could be a few days or it could be several weeks before you get a replacement ICCU for your car. The good news is that as long as you are within the warranty period, this is covered completely free of charge. If you have a high mileage Ioniq 5, could be a different story. Now, with the 2025 Ioniq 5 coming to the market relatively soon, as well as the change to the NACS charging standard, the Tesla plug, I have been told by an engineer that there's a completely brand new ICCU going into the car. So hopefully this resolves all issues going forward. And my last and most important reason to not buy an Ioniq 5 right now is just the sheer fact that the 2025 is coming right around the corner, and basically every single item on this list should be taken care of with this refresh. So the 2025 gets a rear wiper, gets a new processor and better software. It's gonna have a new charge port, so hopefully it won't overheat. And it's most likely gonna have a new ICCU for that NACS charging port. So all these things together just make it hard for me to say, go out and buy an Ioniq 5 right now. Unless you're somebody who really wants a screaming deal, because as people start to find out about all these changes and how they're compounding to make a much better Ioniq 5, I think you're gonna start seeing 2024s sitting on dealer lots a lot longer. And when that happens, prices drop. The current Ioniq 5 leases are already relatively low compared to what they once were. And you can even now finance an Ioniq 5 for 0% APR for 60 months, or you can get $7,500 or more in discounts if you finance it at a higher rate through Hyundai or bring your own financing from a different bank. But with what they did to the 2024 Ioniq 5, I really think the only one worth having is probably the top limited trim, or the very cheapest one if you just really want a cheap commuter car, because the SEL trim just got so much cut from it for 2024, it's just absolutely ridiculous. They literally saved every feature for the top trim Ioniq 5 for this model year. So that's my recommendation. If you don't want an Ioniq 5 with all the issues I just listed, wait for 2025 if you can, which will likely be coming out some point in 2024. So that's gonna do it for this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already done so. Check out my store, ioniqguy.com, for cool accessories for Ioniq 5, Ioniq 6, EV6, Kona Electric, and Genesis GV60. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody. Are you a new or existing owner of a Hyundai Ioniq 5? Then check out my store, because I got a bunch of cool new stuff to show you. So obviously you got the OG magnetic eyewear holder, but I've also got a new magnet shaped like the Ioniq 5 wheel. Do you like big 40-ounce water bottles or tiny little cans? Well, I've got both. This one shrinks your cup holder, while this one enlarges it. I've also got some for the rear seat. I've also got a keychain that resembles the charging indicator in the charge port, and if you don't even want to see this charge port indicator when you're charging at night, you can go ahead and cover it up with this little guy. These LEDs flash very bright at night, so you might not want people coming over and looking at them, and when you're done, thanks to these two little nubs, you can go ahead and store it right in your charge port. I design and 3D print these all myself, and every single sale goes towards the channel and helping me grow it a little bit more. So you can purchase any of these products from the links in the descriptions. If you're international, please use my Etsy store. If you're in the US, you can go to my website, ioniqguy.com. You can also purchase them right here without leaving YouTube from the store on my channel page. And if you have any custom requests, shoot me a message, because I'm always open to trying something new. So I appreciate you checking them out, and I hope you like them.